Okay, so here we have Nan, and I don't want to waste another minute not having her speak. But Nan, tell us about your book. Tell us about what you've been doing with Dr. Goldner, and anything that you want to share with us, we would love to hear.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. Well, I'll begin by saying that this is my book, Aging Powerfully. And as a matter of fact, people will say, well, how can I reach you? And it's under Aging Powerfully with Nan at gmail.com, Aging Powerfully with Nan. I wrote this during the first year of COVID. COVID was 2020. I began in July, and I was 6 months away from turning 70 in 2020. And I decided that because I had been, what was it, 3 years at that point, with my lifestyle medical practice as a health coach and seeing remarkable turnaround in health and things that we thought would not be treatable. Well, one of our most noteworthy patients was one who had been bitten by a brown recluse, and he had a necrosis of a leg that was getting worse and worse, and it was getting worse by the year. So 2 years into it, with lots of treatments, they finally said, it's gone too far, we're going to have to amputate your leg above the knee. And he threw himself into lifestyle Addis medicine, and the College of Lifestyle Medicine has 6 pillars. Stay away from, and that's all part of my book as well. So I'll even review that because it's very much what I believe. Our clinic has reduced those 6 to 4. We've sort of compiled a couple, but the 6 pillars are staying away from addictive substances, and that can be alcohol, that can be drugs, and that can be, well, even overeating, which a lot of us have realized can lead to addictive behavior, and movement on a regular basis. Community, we don't do well as a tribal people ancestrally without having people in our life who care about us and who we care about. Stress management, prioritizing sleep 7 to 9 hours a night, and under nutrition, eating right, whole food, plant-based diet. That's the dictate of the College of Lifestyle Medicine. And when I was looking at, I had just finished training as a health and wellness coach. I'm now nationally board certified as a health and wellness coach. But when I had my initial training, I went to a cooking class at a clinic. It's such a gift, actually, that it worked out this way. And it was a whole food, plant-based cooking class. I had decided that would be the way my husband and I should eat. We had just come back with a number of lab results that weren't good. Doctors were referring me to specialists. And so I went plant-based. My husband did too. And the clinic was looking for a health coach, and they hired me. And so that was all back in 2019, the beginning of 2019, the end of 2018. And I've been with that clinic ever since. We've changed names to Blue Zones Health, and we're under an umbrella company that has a number of lifestyle medical practices, all called Blue Zones Health. In any case, I wrote my book because I realized that lifestyle, if prioritized in those pillars, was applied to our behavior on a daily basis, that any of us could forestall the chronic diseases, most of which we see in Western societies as chronic diseases are lifestyle related. And so I wrote my book, and the word powerfully is an acronym for 10 lifestyle modalities that we can adopt that can help live longer, vibrant lives, increase our joy, and improve our well-being. Well, that was almost 4 years ago now. I'll be 74 in less than 2 months. And my journey has been through not only the practicing of lifestyle as medicine, but the application as I take it to groups that I work with on Zoom or on social media, my social media platforms, especially YouTube, Nan Simonson. I have, gosh, 350 videos up on recipes, the application of whole food plant-based, and what Janet brought up, Dr. Goldner, is a relatively new, just,
I hear you.
well, I'm going to say a blessing that entered my life. I have believed, I felt like I was aging backwards from the time I began whole food plant-based diet. And I mean a clean one, in that I'm really particular about keeping the processed foods down, the ultra processed foods out of my diet. And I feel that I have gotten healthier as I've gone along. But there was always something in the background that I was not able to remediate, and that was markers for the autoimmune diseases that I began with, that the symptoms waned for. For example, rheumatoid arthritis, I have no symptoms, but that was one of the things that was identified back 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, no symptoms, but the Synthroid helps with that, and that's the medication almost everyone takes who has thyroid problems. And then something called microscopic colitis, which no symptoms. I had them when I began, but no symptoms at all now. But there's something that represents primarily autoimmune activity in our body that is non-specific, and it's called an ESR, erythrocyte sedentary rate. Some people just refer to it as a SED rate. And for 6 years now, my SED rate has been really high. It should be in the 20s. When we get to 50, it can be up to 30. But mine was all the way up to 80, 90, which is really, really high. So I had something kind of, I call it kindling, going on, even though I had no symptoms. And I've seen a number of rheumatologists. And in August of this year, I had lab work, and there it was, high again. Within a week of having that lab work, I went to the International Plant-Based Healthcare Conference here in California. I live in Southern California, called Plantrition. And as a matter of fact, I think somebody here was there as well. And yeah, a couple of you somebodies. And the doctor at whose facility we first tested the SED rate, and that is Dr. Goldhammer at True North, was there. And I sat right next to him one night for dinner, and we talked about my having been there 6 years ago. And I said, my SED rate is still almost 50. He said, that's too high. You should come in and fast. And that's what I was going to do. But my lifestyle medical doc said, you know what? There's something else you may want to consider. And Dr. Goldner was also there talking about reversing and treating her autoimmune disease with her protocols and getting really good results. And my doctor had heard about her work, and he has actually an 80-year-old patient, somebody that's part of one of my support groups, who took her 6-week protocol, the Goodby autoimmune protocol and did beautifully with it. So he said, why don't you try her first? And that's how this whole thing opened up with me with Dr. Goldner's protocol. He immediately went on his computer, found her next 6-week rapid recovery group. It was in October, and this was at the end of August, all this year. And he said, you know what, you should take this group. You should take her course. Well, I didn't want to wait that long. I waited 2 days until after Labor Day, and I started it on my own with the books that she has, using Goodby Lupus, Goodby Autoimmune Disease, and I then bought, while I was working with her program, Goodby Lupus and Hello Delicious, because I didn't want to wait until the middle of October, and I knew we were going to go on a holiday then as well. So I did it on my own for 6 weeks. I did her Goodby Lupus protocol. I could say I did the Goodby autoimmune protocol as well, but that's more pointed to emotional and psychological health, pretty much led by her. Meaning that even though she wrote it into this book and I read the book, I think it's hard to say that I did everything right there. So I'll just leave it at I did everything right in the Goodby Lupus protocol. As a matter of fact, I was so taken by the results, which I'll mention, that I signed up for her 6-week program, not in October because that's over, but in January. She has one coming up in January, and I'm going to take it for a couple of reasons, not because I wasn't happy with my results. I was very happy with my results, but that I think there's so much more to learn. She's a board certified psychiatrist and neurologist. She is certified in trauma. She's an MD, and she's an expert at cellular health recovery. And I think there's more to learn, and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to do that as well. So back to the results. I even put the results in a video on my YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, I've kind of linked in the description on just about everything that I produced, and it's well over a dozen that have to do with her protocol. I put all the links to the other ones in each video just so that people can find them easily. But the great results video explained that at the time I had the lab work in August, my SED rate was 48, which was the lowest it had been in, well, most of that time. Most of the time it was well over 50, and then, as I said, up to 80, 89. And that was the thing I really wanted to see go down. That was the whole point of doing this. And it went down to 22, which was huge, because 20, in the 20s, the low 20s is, well, it's normal. And as we get older, it's harder to get it that low. That's why they say in the low 30s is okay, it's acceptable. But at 22, I saw that as reversal of that particular problem. And my autoimmune antibodies for rheumatoid arthritis, that's the rheumatoid factors, what they call it, and thyroglobulin, which had both been really high, were down by just about a third, both of those. And as Dr. Goldner says, they have to die off. They don't just disappear. They die off, and the fact that you no longer are producing new ones mean that you've turned that around. And that's what I'm looking for next. I'll have more lab work in just a little while to see how much. It's been a month now, almost a month, since I had the lab work and finished the 6-week program, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm determined to continue her program, her protocol, to see all of those markers disappear, because she sees that in so many of her patients. So that's the story that I could bring you. And there's so much in between the writing of my book and the living of the whole food plant-based diet, and what I feel that I've gotten from this experience with Dr. Goldner.
Well,
And
and tell us what else you experienced physically.
oh yes. Well, I started running at 70. I thought, wouldn't that be fun to do a 10K? And I did a few 10Ks. And then I thought, wouldn't it be fun to run a half marathon? So I did the training that I saw online, couched to 10K. And I ran a 10K, and I did it. I think I was number 2 in my category. But when you're this age, there aren't a lot of people in our category. And but shortly thereafter, having nothing to do with the running, I hurt my knee, my right knee, and the MRI called it a compound complex multi-tear meniscus. The meniscus tears, which mean I pretty well tore up my knee. And it's been almost a year, and it's caused pain all the time. I found that I could cycle with it though. And so instead of running in the mornings or taking long walks in the mornings, I now cycle anywhere from a half an hour to an hour and a half. This morning it was almost an hour and a half. And at week number 3, my husband and I also walk every night after dinner. So week number 3, I said to my husband, that's interesting. I've had 3 days of being on my feet a lot. And usually if I do that, I can barely make it, or I just go stop our walk early and go back home. And I said, it's not bothering me. By week number 4, I realized my knee pain was gone. And that tells me that you can take a mechanical thing, because I consider torn meniscus to be rather mechanical. It's not just inflammatory, but you remove the inflammatory component of it, because that's the point of her protocol. It's to nourish our cells to the degree and reduce inflammation to the degree that our bodies can heal. And there must have been a inflammatory component around the knee, because it's now been, well, whatever it's been. I started September 2nd, and here we are, and wherever we are in November the 11th or something like that. And I have no knee pain. I'm walking every evening with him a half an hour. We just got back from a holiday in New Mexico, and we were up in the mountains. And I took a couple of hour to hour and a half walks, no problem at all. So I consider her protocol to be my proof, I'll call it N of 1, that living a whole food plant-based lifestyle, honoring lifestyle as medicine with those components from the College of Lifestyle Medicine, has allowed me to, in a way, age backwards, but in a lot of ways, maintain health that a lot of people my age I see are really struggling with. And I credit my diet and my lifestyle to that, but it had its limitations, because we couldn't get rid of the SED rate. The rheumatologists that I saw told me finally that there was nothing they can do. Let them know when I started having symptoms. And the way I see it is, when your body basically explodes, let us know, and we'll see if we can medicate you back to, some kind of, not normality, but get you through it. And that's why I didn't want to wait. I wanted to do something about it. Well, her
Wait till he sees your
protocol.
ESD now, or yeah,
Well,
that
yeah, I can't
that's
wait.
going to be so cool.
Um,
And I just want to say, tell us how you stayed, what you did traveling, on the plane.
okay, yes,
Yeah.
I'll do that. But I'm going to finish that sentence. What I believe about Dr. Goldner's protocol is that whole food plant-based is the structural foundation of great health. We at our clinic have been able to reverse a lot of things, but there are things that couldn't be treated, couldn't be ameliorated just with these good, healthy choices. Her protocol, I believe, is the next step up. I called it in one of my videos the Holy Grail, meaning that it's that elusive thing that people were looking for to take care of things that a lot of people believed were lifetime and lifetime sentences, like lupus and Sjogren's and MS, that she has been able to actually reverse in people with her protocol. So it's that pointed nutrition, seeing that, understanding that, feeling that for myself, experiencing it for myself. What it's made me realize is that with every bite we take, with every food choice that we make, if we think about it as making choices that can pinpoint our health, not just give us the macros. Oh, I've got enough protein, I've got enough fat, I've got enough carbs, and that's it. But actually pay a little more attention to, for example, what she pays attention to: dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, raw, because it in general gives us 30% more nourishment than most of those same foods cooked. And I don't mean, I'm not staying high raw. As a matter of fact, when her program has come to a successful end, and I considered the SED rate being a successful end for now, and the antibodies will continue to go down. There is something called step down, stepping down from high raw, and that simply means that I will still continue to do her smoothies every day, and I have every day a pound of my smoothies. The way I make them is a pound of deep leafy greens and cruciferous, and so I mix kale and spinach. Just recently I made one out of spinach and red cabbage, and I call it my pretty pink smoothie, and it's just delicious. And the chia and flaxseed combination for the omega-3 fatty acids, I still do a half cup of that combination. And hydration. I drink 2 of these a day, 1 smoothie a day, and 2 14-ounce glasses of water. That gets me, oh, here it is right here. Cheers. That gets me to about 115 ounces, excuse me, of water a day. And I'll continue to do that. So the smoothies, the water, as a background, because as she says, she's done it, sorry, I gulped wrong with that water. She's now still doing the smoothies, hypernourishment with the smoothies for 19 years after recovering from lupus, because as she says, why not? And then the step down means, and then the introduction of cooked foods. So that's what I'm doing now.
Now, I've heard her
No.
say that she backed off on the chia, the flax, that she just does a handful.
Right, right. She
I
says,
wonder what
if
that
you're
means.
well, I've never known. If you're healing, she wants to see, she would like to see a half a cup. I don't know how you do how you do a handful. A handful, when you're talking about slippery seas, I don't know what that means. Is that 2
Yeah.
tablespoons? Is it 3? But I can tolerate a half a cup. And the interesting thing is, and then I'll answer what Janet had introduced the subject on, and that is the holidays. Well, I'll jump to the end of the holiday. We were gone 10 days in New Mexico with families, and babies and children, and eating still my hypernourishment with my smoothie every day, and eating other things at restaurants and things, putting together what I could from restaurants, which is usually a disaster because they sneak stuff in there. And I came back a half a pound less. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but usually when I travel as a whole food plant-based person that loves volume, I eat huge amounts of food because with low oil, I don't cook with oil. So without the oil, there's fewer calories with no meat, no cheese, no eggs, no oil. It takes a lot to keep your weight up. And I'm used to eating like that. Well, when I travel and I'm used to eating like that and they sneak stuff in, I almost always come back a few pounds heavier. This time
Yeah.
I'd actually lost weight. I couldn't believe it. So the way I travel, well, the way Janet travels, I mean, I'm a novice and and what I do is puny compared to what she does. But yeah, I brought well, when I went to the Plantrician conference, I met Dr. Goldner. She sat right next to me for dinner. I was sitting with Chef AJ, and AJ said to me, we're friends. And she said to me, Nan, guess who's coming to dinner? And it was Dr. Goldner. And she had flown in. She sat right next to me. And I offered her, I had a baggie of her chips, her not chips, flax crackers. And I said,
Uh-huh.
would you like a cracker? This is your recipe. And then I offered her a cracker that was her tomato tortilla recipe. And she thought that was pretty cool because for that period, I was away, well, the conference was 4 days. I brought to the hotel, I brought my Vitamix, and I managed to have what I needed in the refrigerator of the hotel. And I made the full smoothie every day at the hotel and drank that plus ate whatever food they had to offer. And because it was a health care conference that was plant-based, it wasn't hard at all to get my meals the way I like them.
So
But
you
when I
carried your Vitamix onto the plane carry-on?
Well, yes.
How?
So this is the story. At the conference, it was only 45 minutes from my home, but for New Mexico, I had to bring my Vitamix. I didn't want to put the motor in my luggage. That worried me. And
Mhm.
so I carried the motor. It's about 8 pounds. And
In
I
a
will
bag or?
say, and well, we had it in one of we had a roller bag that went up above,
Oh,
and we had it in that. And both going and coming, even though we were TSA approved and they kind of leave you alone most of the time, boy, they wanted to check that thing out one way and another and rescan it. And so if
mhm.
you do it, you just know that you're going to spend more time. And I asked the person, I said, I want to confirm that if I have this visible so you can check it out, there's no way someone's just going to disallow it and take it away from me, right? And she said, no, as long as we can scan it and we don't see anything funny going on, and we can see that it's a motor for a manufactured product, you're fine. But I didn't believe I was going to, we were in Airbnbs in New Mexico, two of them. One of them had a blender, but now I sound like I'm selling Vitamix. There isn't a blender on the planet that can do what a Vitamix
We
can do.
know.
Maybe, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
there's, a couple of other strong ones, but I like my Vitamix and I like having the plunger and all of that stuff. And
So
so
how did you carry the pitcher? Sorry, but
picture went into the luggage. And in the picture, I even had with me a bottle of flaxseed oil, the cold press. And if you
oh,
get
yeah.
her barleans, you don't have to have it refrigerated ahead of opening it because they use nitrogen in the process that keeps oxygen away from the oil. So I had a fresh bottle of the barleans so I could use it for salad dressing that I made there. And
So that was on your
in,
check-in luggage?
no, that was in the pitcher.
Oh,
Here's this
really?
empty pitcher. And so I put a bottle of the Barleans. I put a couple of things in the pitcher that just made sense to store there. I mean, I
And
could
that
have
was
just,
carry-on?
no, that was check-in.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Yeah,
asked.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can't You can't carry
take that
through
much.
the pitcher because of the blades. They'll take it away
Oh,
from you, or you'll have to
oh.
go downstairs and do your whole check-in again.
Or the
So,
oil, unless it's less than 3 ounces.
or the oil less than 3 ounces.
Yeah.
But it would, people are rather impressed because I've done this now for 6 years. We've traveled with friends all over the world, and being whole food plant-based and rather strict about it, I still had these habits that when I travel, I always carry a bag full of food. And I can carry the most amazing meals and combinations of things and have good meals while we fly anywhere by just doing enough of the right stuff when I travel. And anyway, I won't go into that. That's, you know, all about that. You do it on
I'm
wheels, for goodness sakes.
I'm gonna pick your brain though for the flight because I fly too, and I usually keep it pretty simple. But I'm curious to hear
Yeah.
what you do.
I
So
I don't do hungry well, and so
yeah,
I always want to make sure that I have food with me.
me
And
too.
yeah, yeah.
I take a
And
pack
yeah,
full
and
of
I have
food.
little containers that are less than 3 ounces. I
Hmm.
brought a lot of well, a lot, they fit in the 1 quart bag, those little packages of of guacamole. Um,
And they let you have that.
oh yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I had 4 or 5 of those in. I had a little container of soy milk that was 3 ounces. I put that in. Um,
Hmm.
I'm thinking anyway, but
Hummus.
I had
Weren't you saying you had
hummus. I
hummus?
had
Uh-huh.
containers of hummus. I had containers of fruit and
Hmm.
her crackers and vegetables so that we could dip them in the avocado. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they in the travels, I found that as long as I knew, I don't know how many of you know who Esther Loveridge is.
Oh
She,
yes, we all know
okay, a lot of
Esther.
people. Okay, so one of the thing Esther repeats, I have her book, the 365 days of her
Yes.
Dr. McDougall protocol,
Mhm.
and she repeats something that I've just gotten into my mind. That's not my food.
Yeah.
And if you can separate that, and Dr. Goldner says something like, that's not food. She said
Mhm.
that might as well be a buffet of cat food. It's not food to me. And
Yeah.
Esther Loveridge looks at something and says, that's not my food. And I can do that. And that just flips a little switch to help prevent me from feeling like I'm deprived. It's just not my food. And so I
So
can turn
true.
it off. Isn't that great?
It really is a mental shift that we have to make.
100%.
Yeah.
Even before I started this program, there were things that I liked too much that I didn't want to like anymore.
Yeah.
And this is disgusting. So you can hold your ears and hum to yourself if you don't want to hear it. But for example, cheesecake. I was in my old years, I was addicted to cheesecake. And one day I decided that cheesecake is just ground maggots. And so from that moment on, I looked at cheesecake and I could very clearly believe that, and it had no draw to me at all anymore. And it
Hmm.
just shows the power of our mind and
Hmm.
suggestion.
Yep.
I feel like maybe somebody might have questions, or maybe there are some other things that I should fill in terms of what you'd like to either learn from me or like me to address.
Well, I've been watching the chat, and there aren't any in the chat. I've got lots of questions, but let me open it up and let me open this up to gallery view. And if any of you, does anybody else have a question?
You said something that startled me a little bit about using flax oil.
Yes. Oops, that's
What,
too.
how do you use that?
Well, it's, you know what? Some people wouldn't like it because it's a little like axle grease. It's really thick and it has a rather interesting smell. And if it smells fishy, it's old. You shouldn't use it. It's but Dr. getting darker in here. Hold on. Let me see if I can do something without it being too reflective. But Dr. Goldner, she refers to her use of flax oil quite a lot when she refers to her healing time, because when she was healing before they knew anything about smoothies or grinding seeds, that she used the oil. She actually used an example, and I don't believe this is so, but it certainly was a visual to me, or a verbal cue to a visual. She said that she went somewhere, and what she had was really heavy in in omega-3s. I'm sorry, in omega-6s, which of course will battle with the 3s and end up winning in terms of the enzymatic breakdown of it. And she said, and I went home and I guzzled my flaxseed oil. Her example being, I wanted to get my omega-3s up. Well, in her Goodby, Lupus, Hello Delicious, there is a salad dressing that I've come to really like. And it's for the recipe called Dr. G's Mango Crunch Salad. And and I make it all the time, and it has the flaxseed oil, and I like it. I like it a lot. So I use it in that way.
Well, and tell her
cook in it.
why Goldner says it's okay to use oil.
Well, okay, thank you for stopping me long enough to make me explain that. I, on my videos, don't use oil for cooking. You would never use flax oil or chia oil, which is harder to find, for cooking, because as soon as it warms up, as soon as it's gotten too much light, it's going to oxidize out those omega-3 fatty acids. And so you wouldn't use it the way you would oil, but it can be used cold or directly out of the bottle in salad dressings. As she said, she would gulp it sometimes when she wanted, well, oh, let me back up. I hear her often say to people on her Wellness Wednesday Q&A sessions, when people are having digestive problems with their smoothies, she'll say it's the possibility is that you're reacting to the fiber in flax and chia seeds. And she said instead, the flax oil is actually more concentrated in the omega-3s, and 3 tablespoons of flax oil is equivalent to a half cup of flax or chia. I just happen to combine the two, flax and chia together. I get what they both have to offer, even though flax is higher, not massively higher, but a bit higher in omega-3s than flax is. I'm sorry, than chia is.
Yeah.
But she actually recommends to people that they use the flaxseed oil in their smoothie, 3 tablespoons, rather than the half a cup if necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
How does that work with heart disease? Because I have Dr. Esselstyn in my head.
I know.
These other people say no oil, no oil, no oil, and that's just.
And Kathy, they also say no salt, no salt, no salt.
Right.
And yet Dr. Goldner recommends, if you're going to, okay, I'll take it way back to what you started with, and that is, how does this work with heart disease? Well, someone with heart disease has a need to get, let's say, specialized directives on her protocol, because her protocol recommends a gallon of water a day for most of us. If you're under 120 pounds, it can be the 96 ounces, but otherwise a gallon a day. And somebody with kidney problems, somebody with heart disease, somebody who doesn't filter their water well and tends to hold fluid in their cells, could really have a problem with that part of the protocol. She then says, if you're going to drink that much, you've got to add salt or you could pass out, you could go into hypernatremia, and that could be dangerous. Somebody could die from that. And all of those are counter to what we hear. Oh, look at that knife. Whoa, that's a beauty. Yeah, and that's counter to what we hear from Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. A number of physicians. Well, the whole food plant-based society that I've wrapped my arms around for 6 years is rather specific about the salt, specific about the oil. And so I'll back it up to say, no, I don't cook with oil, but I will use the flaxseed oil because that's specific with the omega-3s that are very, very anti-inflammatory and that are very important to our body to reduce inflammation, and to strengthen our endothelial cells, interestingly enough, and our nerve, the myelin sheaths in our nerves, or on our nervous system. And the salt is a must if we're going to have the water. And if we don't have the water, then we're not going to get the same results. I listened today to a podcast that Dr. Goldner did with Chef AJ about 8 months ago, and it was on hyperhydration and the dangers of not being hydrated and the effect of it. And she was very specific to say that if people don't drink that amount of water, and again, unless there's reasons not to, that they probably won't get the same results, and then for all the reasons why. So it doesn't equate to the directives of Dr. Esselstyn for the reasons he gives, but that the omega-3 fatty acids apparently affect our body in such a way that it still makes it workable. And her bottom line, Dr. Goldner's bottom line that I've heard again and again is, all I know is that it works.
She's results driven. Yeah.
Exactly. All I know, and Jennifer, I see you there. And all I know is that we get the results, that we actually will help reverse heart disease with our protocol. And it's not a fat-free protocol, because when you take the fat, the amount of fat in the flax and shea, the amount of fat, for example, that I'm now having in 1 to 2 avocados a day, that I've never done. And I've actually lost weight on the protocol, not gained it. This is
because we're not eating starch.
Diet.
We're not eating grains. We're not eating starches. We have to get our calories.
That's exactly what's going on. And it's very, very pointed nutrition. Jennifer, did you, and Kathy, did I answer that?
Thanks very much.
Okay, I like your backdrop. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Jennifer, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's so good to see you too. And thank you for sharing everything that you are sharing. I have a couple of questions, and so stop me if anyone wants to ask something in between. But the quick question is, so you were talking about traveling with the liquid, like the hummus and the guacamole and those things. Do you package those yourself 3 ounces, or did you buy it packaged 3 ounces or less?
Both Costco and Trader Joe's sell packets of guacamole. They're pretty good, and they are small enough to be able to put into that 1 quart bag that each person is allowed to carry with them. And I think I got 4 or 5 of them in there, and no problem at all. And then I package my own little containers of hummus, and I've been able to get through the pre-check with those little containers because they're clearly 3 ounces or less.
So you just had a bunch of however many you wanted. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how
A
you
little
do it.
Tupperware. What I use is a Tupperware container because the round Tupperware containers are liquid tight.
How do you do both? Because don't you fill up 1 quart bag? That's all you get to take.
Well, and my husband gets one too.
Ah, tricky.
So yeah. So we load up on things to dip vegetables with, the salad dressing to use on an airport, the guacamole, things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you
Did
have
you-
another question,
Oh,
Jennifer?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
did.
I
Go
keep
ahead,
asking.
Janet. Okay.
I was just gonna ask, did you take the NutriBullet too, or just the Vitamix?
No, I only took the Vitamix. I have a NutriBullet, but it would take so much more time to make my smoothies if I had to break everything up into small things like that. I love that in my the Vitamix, I can cram in that whole pound. It's actually a pound of deep leafy and cruciferous. It's over a pound of fruit. And then everything else I put in there, and it just gobbles it up. I love that thing.
When I take the car, I take them both because the NutriBullet's good for salad dressings for a salad. And the
Oh,
Vitamix
okay.
is great for my smoothies in the morning.
Yeah.
But on the plane, I was just wondering what you did, because it's
No.
really hard making small amounts of salad dressing in the Vitamix.
Well, I usually will double or triple this. Well, by far, I do it 5 times. The dressing that I'm referring to,
Yeah.
the one for the mango crunch salad, uses a tablespoon of lemon juice, tablespoon of Bragg's liquid aminos, 2 tablespoons of flaxseed, and I don't use that much. I only use 1. So it's a 1-1-1. Lemon, liquid aminos, flax, and then garlic powder and salt. Well, I do that 5 times over. In other words, well, 5 tablespoons is almost, not quite, a third of a cup. And so because it's ratios, I can just do a third of each one and come up
Mhm.
with a cup of dressing, which blends beautifully in the Vitamix. And I keep it in the refrigerator in a dark place. And then I use it for my salads for, quite a while.
That would be the thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jennifer?
Yes, I see Gina's hands up, but I do
Oh,
have
okay.
two questions and I don't have to ask them both. So I am really curious about how you got your iodine in, and
Oh,
not
good one.
only not only how you did it, but like which way you did you get it from like the salt where it's iodized salt versus like dulse or something? And then the second part is, how did you choose to incorporate it?
Okay. I've heard her say, and again, I have Hashimoto's, and I don't know that will really ever go away. That's a toughie. And yet I hear people say that the Hashimoto's is gone. So, fingers crossed on that one. But the hands, I can tell that the rheumatoid arthritis, which hasn't really bothered me that much for 6 years, but still kept this hand from opening all the way first thing in the morning. Fingers would get kind of stuck. No problem at all now. Okay, let me get back to what you had asked me specifically. She's talked a lot about the need with Hashimoto's for iodine, 300 micrograms. And if somebody doesn't have thyroid disease, still the recommendation of 150. So I got a liquid iodine from my natural food store, and I put 2 drops of it. The liquid iodine is 150 micrograms, so that makes it easy. 1 for somebody that doesn't have thyroid problems, and 2 for me. So first thing in the morning, the minute I wake up, I put it into the tiniest bit of water and drink it. There's no flavor at all. It's not yellow or odd looking or anything like that. And I do it first thing because cruciferous vegetables interfere with the absorption of iodine. That's why some people say if you have a autoimmune disease, especially Hashimoto's, you shouldn't eat cruciferous because of that connection. Well, you just separate them, and that's her recommendation. You separate them time-wise. Well, I make my smoothie at 7 in the morning, and I always have some. And so I have, when I wake up, it's usually a little before 6. And so I get my iodine in that way. So that's how I get it in. I don't do dulse because I don't know how to measure that. and I don't do the salt because I don't even know how to measure that. I don't know how to measure that I've had a teaspoon of
Mhm.
that salt, because as she said, 1 teaspoon of iodized salt will give you the recommended daily allowance. Well, I don't know how to do that.
Hopefully. Yeah. I
Well,
mean, how
yeah,
does she even
I
know?
don't
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. So
Yeah.
it's just easier for me to do nothing in any of the other, even though I like those little sheets of seaweed and packages. I'll have one of those once in a while. But yeah, this way I just know that I'm gaining what I need.
Would you mind sharing the brand that you are currently using?
I was gonna say it's Now Brown, but I don't know if it's Now Brand. It's
Oh.
our natural food store is called Clark's, and Clark's has their name on labels, and it's the Clark's brand liquid iodine. So
If you could
that's
send
all
it to me, Nan, I could send it to Jennifer.
Oh, okay, all right. What I'll
Yeah.
do is I'll take a picture of it, and you had sent me your phone number, and you can
You could
send
text it
it
to
as
me.
a picture. Yeah, it's upstairs, and I don't want to leave you that long.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I do have one more question, but you want to let Gina go next?
And
And then,
well, I'll go ahead and ask, and then I'll go to Gina.
oh, okay. Okay, so when you were talking about the cheesecake,
Oh, you
and
mean the maggots? My
the
maggot
maggots,
cake?
that nasty maggot looking thing.
Yeah.
I was really wondering okay, so when you loved it back whenever, and then you changed your thinking about it and saw it in a different form. Do you recall how you actually got your mind to believe you?
Okay, I'll enrich the story by telling you something that if you read Aging Powerfully, you'll know, and that is that I was bulimic for over 50 years of my life. And so I've had struggles with binging and purging for decades, and that I left that behind in 2018, middle of 2018, using a book and using whole food plant-based, but that was near the end of 2018 when I went whole food plant-based. The whole food plant-based stabilized my system and my blood sugar, and I think that was part of it. But a big part of it was the book Brain Over Binge, and she taught us to the premise of that, taken from another book, Radical Recovery, that was written by a man who helped people with alcohol and drugs recover from those addictions, and she just applied it to her addiction with food, and it worked for her, and it worked for me. After 50 years of on and off therapists and drugs and everything, within 3 months I was able to leave it behind. So the cheesecake thing, that was partially out of desperation, because when I was binging, I couldn't get enough of it, and I just realized that anyway, it was one of the worst foods I could do. But to add to that, to put a tail on that, I also was able to use my mind to play a little video of what a binge and a purge and the aftermath looked and felt like. And I could see it so clearly, and the same thing with, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, I could see it so clearly, and I don't, and that's the way it was with the maggot cake, that I could see it so clearly, imagine it so well, that it became real. Dr. Goldner said something, and I wrote this down. I liked both of them. We live into what we think is possible, but also what you look for, you see. And I began to see certain foods as poison, just like the cheesecake was, poisoned in even a nastier way. Well, that video of what binging led to became so abhorrent to me, it became rather easy to simply run that tiny little video clip and know that I wasn't going to do that. And it's been now 6 years since, well, over 6 years, about 6.5 years. And I shouldn't have been able to do that. People had told me, therapists had told me I'd done it for so long that I probably wouldn't be able to fully recover, and they were wrong. So I hope that answered your question.
And thank you so
okay.
much. I
Well,
appreciate
you're
you
welcome.
sharing that. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Gina.
Yeah, excuse me. Hi, thank you so much for coming on our meeting. I see you at AJ's conferences, and every time I see you, it's just really exciting and
Thank
fun.
you.
And you have so much experience and knowledge from everything that I would love to ask for you to come back if, you know, if that would be possible. But my
Sure.
question is, and it's a quick one, a lot of people in the Dr. Goldner world and talk about, they mostly have Barlean's oil, but would it be okay to do like Whole Foods organic flaxseed oil, or is there something about Barlean's that
Oh, no, it can be
Goldner
any, but it
likes?
has to be cold pressed. And if you have sensitivities, you can leave out the, there's a word for it. It can be filtered. If it's filtered, then it doesn't even have the particulates.
The sediment?
What?
Sediment?
Yeah, we'll call it sediment, but
Soda?
there's still another word, and I can't put my tongue on it, my finger on it. But it's actually it's the way they say it. But it's cold pressed. It can have these, maybe we can call them lignans or not.
Oh,
But if it's cold pressed, you should be fine. So it doesn't have to be Barlean's. There are a number of other brands, but what you want to look at, somebody commented on one of my videos and said, and I didn't pay attention to, well, I thought I paid attention, but I couldn't tell you what it was. But this other brand, and this brand also has in it sunflower oil. Is that okay? And I wrote back, heck no, because sunflower oil is massively high, as is sesame oil, as is a lot of oils, massively high in omega-6s. So the whole point of going out of our way to get these 3s would be negated as soon as we ingested anything with a lot of 6s, because the battle begins, and the enzyme that would break either one of them down is preferential to the 6s.
and you might have said this, but what is
Yeah.
the ratio of this 3s to the 6s that she looks at?
Well, she says anything from 1 to 1 to 1 to 9 is okay, but 1 to 9 is a little bit high. But
Okay.
most in the Western world, because animal foods are high in 6s. A lot of our nuts are high in 6s. I have a chart here. Even somebody asked about hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are 3.2 to 1 omega-6 to 3. So again, you're taking something she said it's fine if you're healed, it's fine if you're not trying to heal, but if you're trying to heal, you want every iota of power behind that cellular recovery. Sesame is when I saw tahini, I thought, oh my gosh, I used to treat tahini like a miracle food, but
I love your ranch dressing that has it in it.
oh, so do I. I
Yeah.
was putting tahini in everything, but sesame seeds, for example, are 56.8 to 1. They're that high. So now I treat sesame seeds, i.e. tahini, with great respect. I won't just throw in a half a cup in something and figure, oh, that gives it a nice creamy flavor. I just won't do that. But anyway.
Okay.
Susie's
Thank
got
you.
a question.
Yes, Susie.
Susie, can you unmute?
There we go.
You got it. There you go.
Hi, thank you, Nan.
Yes.
I don't really know how to articulate this, but you mentioned that Goldner
Everyone, hold on.
mentioned
This
that
is my husband.
Hi,
flaxseed.
Tim.
He just got home.
Yes,
Go away.
I'm going away. I wondered where you were. I didn't know you were hiding back here.
Okay.
Okay.
You
Go ahead,
mentioned that
Susie.
Goldner stated that flaxseed oil was good for your endothelial cells and also your neurologic status. What is that based on? Is that an observation that she had, or is that something that's commonly known? Where did you get that information?
I
And
don't know.
how does it affect your endothelial cells specifically?
The omega-3s affect us at a cellular level in ways that no other, this is what she's saying,
Okay.
that no other oil or no other element will, no other, it's an essential fatty acid. It is more, I'll use the word curative, healing than any of the other oils. Omega-9 would be olive oil. Omega-6 is just about every oil is high in an omega-6. And
No,
the more
that's per her observations, or is that a?
well, I don't know because
Okay.
she's not stated studies, but I may just have not heard her state the studies. What she will then say is, these are the results we're getting, and we get the results with these directives. And so that tends to be her answer to just about everything. I'm getting the results. People will say this and that, but I'm getting the results. And to a degree, that may be irrefutable. The results that are not only true, but also long-term.
What is the manifestation of curing endothelial cells? What is the end result?
It's not, you're not really curing endothelial cells, you're affecting them. The
What is the
endothelial
effect?
cells,
What
if they
happens?
are, well, if they are, and I'm not a doctor and I really shouldn't even be adding anything to this, but I'll just do it as a health coach. If you strengthen the cellular makeup of anything in our body, be it an organ, be it the lining of our colon, be it the endothelial cells, you're strengthening them. Dr. Esselstyn says it's the difference of blood flowing through Teflon as opposed to Velcro. In other words, the cells aren't they're I'm just going to say stronger, smoother, but I don't know what that looks like physiologically. So I'll leave it at
Okay,
that.
thank you. That's my
But
question.
good
Thank you.
question. Good question.
Well, I'd like to know, I'd like to know. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody
Well,
else?
it's 7 after 5.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
I
were
think
gonna
I'm
leave
gonna
at
I'm
40
gonna go and
Yeah.
do what he's expecting, and that is getting dinner together.
Thank you so much for coming, Nan. And I'll put this up on YouTube, and it's gonna be, and I'll send it out to all the other gals. There's like 55 of us.